Once you're ready, you can join me on your back and we'll get ready for bridge pose. So we want to lie all the way on our back with the feet on the mat. Knees are bent, and you can have the feet really far away or you can have the feet a little bit closer. Just see what feels good on your knees. So we'll start pressing into the feet and just curling the tailbone up. So it's kind of the same action if you're sitting on the couch and you're about to get up and you just firm the glutes. So it's just that little movement where we're just lifting the tailbone, firming the glutes, staying really low. So I want you to make sure that your sacrum or your low back is down and that your front ribs are popping up. So we want the front ribs hugging toward the back body and the chin toward the throat. Staying in this really low bridge, just using the glutes. So we're just using the glutes, pressing into the feet, and then lowering back down. This time we've got the option to go a little bit higher, and this time we'll bring our palms to our pelvic points, or our ASISs. Those are those bony parts right in the front. You can feel them with your hands. So we'll just bring the hands to those pelvic points, starting the same way, pressing into the feet and just curling the tailbone up. From this position, if you feel like this is enough to work your glutes, just lifting a little bit, working on that curl of the tailbone, you can stay here. Or lift up a little bit higher, but we're still staying pretty low in our bridge so that the focus is on the glutes. If you're not sure if you're using the glutes, you can tap them. So anytime we bring our hands to the body for a little tactile cueing, that's a great way to wake up the body and connect with the brain. So you can do a little tapping here, and then we'll pause. Hopefully you can feel the glutes working. And with the hands at your pelvic points, imagine those two pelvic points drawing in toward each other. So as you feel that action of drawing those pelvic points in, you'll start to work the deep low belly and you'll help keep the pelvis neutral, which is what we want. So if my pelvis weren't neutral, it would be tipping and I would have that arch in my low back and my ribs pop up. And if I was tucking too far under, that would not be great as well. So we want to find that neutral position. Glutes stay really strong. Lowering back down nice and slowly. Once you come down, right knee can come in toward your chest. Any amount, you can grab onto it or you can just let your arms rest. And we'll start to warm up the right ankle. So you can make any type of movement that feels good. And now we'll bring that same idea into the right hip joint. So as we start to move that right hip around, you can do it however you'd like. Maybe making circles. It might be making some noise. You could probably hear my hip. It makes a lot of noise when I circle it. And we'll flex the foot, cross it over the left thigh. So I want you to pause here. Make sure that your low back is down. Check in again with the ribs, chin toward the throat. This might already be a big stretch in that right hip. So if it is, just pause here. If it's not quite a stretch yet, you can lift your left foot up. And maybe you pause here. If you'd like to go a little further, you can interlace your hands behind your left thigh and pull in a little bit. But we want the right knee moving away from the body instead of crunching in. So you can even place a hand there just to make sure that the knee is moving away. Release it down. So that right foot will come back to the mat and we'll hug the left knee in. Same thing, hands can rest or you can grab onto that left leg as you start to warm up that left ankle. So any movement with the left foot, just like the hip, it might crack or make some noise. And then again, we'll move the left hip. So if circles feel good, try to circle in both directions, warming up your left hip. Flex your left foot, cross it over the right thigh. Now again, pause here, check and make sure the low back is down and we're not lifting that little arch in the low back. You can use a hand to press that left thigh away if you'd like, pausing here, or maybe picking the right foot up. If it feels good, interlace the hands behind the right thigh. Make sure your left knee is moving away from your body. Check in with that 360 breath while you're here. Feel the torso expand in all directions as you inhale, exhaling fully. Release the right foot down and the left foot. We'll start to work the core, so you're welcome to keep the feet down with the knees bent, or you can pick up your feet so that your knees are over your hips, and we'll bring the hands behind the head, cupping the skull. Take a big breath in. As you exhale, draw your elbows in. Lift up off your shoulder blades. So it's a small lift, just enough for the shoulder blades to lift, and the hands are supporting the head and neck. Draw those two pelvic points together, just like we did in bridge pose. So you can imagine those two pelvic points drawing in, feeling the deep low belly, checking that the front ribs aren't popping up, but instead pressing down toward the mat. As you inhale, lower down. Exhale, draw the elbows in, lift up off your shoulder blades. Tiny lift, draw those two pelvic points in, check in with the front ribs. Inhale to lower. One more, exhale, draw the elbows in, lift up off your shoulders. Draw those two pelvic points in, hug the front ribs down, maybe see if you can lift just a tiny bit more. Inhale, lower down, bring the feet back down. Coming into a seated position, you're welcome to hug your knees in and just rock and roll all the way up, or you can roll to one side, coming to your comfortable seat. Once you get there, we'll start to warm up the neck, and we'll start with some lateral movement. So we'll just move the head side to side as if I were dropping my ear to my shoulder. And then we'll turn the head side to side. Just do a few times each direction. It doesn't need to be a big movement. And finally, up and down, bringing the chin down. And then just barely lifting the chin. So not a big movement on the way up. Come back to center. Bring your hands to your shoulders, and we'll roll one shoulder at a time. Make this movement as big as you can. You might hear some clicking or some kind of noise here. That's normal, but we want to move around so that we click less. Reach your right arm up, and as you reach that right arm, really reach it. So my arm is reaching up toward the ceiling, and my right ribs are lifting, and my right scapula and shoulder is lifting, so that I'm getting a really big stretch in the right side of my body. And then you can make it a little bit bigger by releasing that left ear down, which helps me to get a stretch in the right side of my neck. Come back up, and we'll switch sides. Left arm will reach up. Now when your arm lifts, feel the ribs lift, feel the scapula and the shoulder lift, getting a stretch right in that left seam of the body, maybe releasing the right ear down. So that gets a stretch in the left side of my neck as I continue reaching up. Release it down. Right palm comes forward with the fingers down, and we'll pull the elbow right back into the side body. Left fingertips will grab onto the right hand and pull back. So you can adjust the stretch by making it a little bit harder or more gentle, and we'll inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. One more, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Switching sides, left palm forward, fingers down, pull the elbow in, right fingertips grab the left fingertips and pull back. So you can pull back as hard as you want, getting that stretch and opening in the left wrist and even the left forearm. Breathe in through your nose, exhale through your mouth, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Release it down. We'll transition onto hands and knees, coming into table pose or quadruped. So shoulders are right over the wrist, hips over your knees, and we'll start to stretch and warm up the back with cat-cow. As you inhale, you'll drop the belly down. When you drop the belly down, the pelvis will tip forward, but this is the one time that we get to tip the pelvis so that we can really move as much as we can in the spine. As you exhale, pelvis is going to tilt the other way, so it's going to round or tuck, and you'll round the back and just release the head. So let it feel heavy. Inhale, drop your belly, tip the pelvis forward. Exhale, round your back. Inhale, drop your belly. Exhale, round. One more. Inhale, drop your belly. Exhale, round. Come back to that flat back. We're gonna make our way into a happy squat. So we'll have to tuck the toes just for a little bit as if we're coming into downward dog. Hands will walk back to the feet. And I'm working on a hip hinge. So the weight is in my heels and I'm bending the knees, sending my hips really far back so that my spine can be long. Press into your feet, rise to stand. We're gonna work on that hip hinge in a standing position. The ability to hinge at your hips is so much better for your back, especially long-term and doing repetitive movements, which is why I'm not teaching any traditional yoga forward folds like this anymore. So we're only doing a hip hinge and flexing at the hips. So that's a really functional movement that I'd like you to practice so that it can just start to be part of your everyday body awareness. So we'll inhale the arms up. When the arms lift, side body lift. So my shoulders are lifting, my scapula is lifting, and I'm gonna bring my hands, my fingers, to my hip creases as I exhale. And bringing my hands to my hip creases signals my hips to move back because that's where we want the movement to come from. I'm working on my hip hinge so my spine stays long and I start to move my hips back. As I move my hips back, I'm still lifting my belly, I'm hugging those front ribs in and I'm not letting my head drop so that my spine is staying really long and I'm just gonna hinge forward as far as I can. And then firm your glutes. So the ability to use the glutes has to do with how well we can do this action of flexing at the hips. So glutes stay strong, press into the feet, come back up. And we'll just practice that a few times. Inhale, arms lift. Exhale, fingers to the hip crease, send your hips back, spine stays long. You should be moving your hips so far back that it almost feels like you're gonna fall backwards. Use the glutes, come back up. Inhale, arms lift. Exhale, hinge at the hips, fingertips press into your hip creases, sending the hips back. Come back up, we'll do that one more time. Inhale, arms lift. Exhale, hinge at your hips, spine stays long. Press into your feet, keep the glutes strong, come back up. Keeping this nice neutral upright posture, let's come into tree pose. So we'll just balance a little bit. So make sure your pelvis stays neutral, drawing those pelvic points in, hugging the front ribs, chin towards your throat so that the head isn't dropping forward. We'll pick up the right foot, toes can stay on the ground, or they can come up onto this left leg. So in order for us to balance really well, firm this left glute. So again, you can tap it if you're not sure. Make sure that left glute is working. Draw those pelvic points in. Keep that upright posture. Hands can be anywhere for balance. They can be down, they can be at your heart, they can be up, whatever feels good, but try to gaze somewhere in front of you instead of down. Check in again with that 360 breath. When you inhale, ribs are gonna expand all directions. Release it down. You can shake out your feet a little bit, and we'll do that on the other side. Standing up tall, pick up your left foot. Toes can stay on the ground for balance, or they can come up. Check in with that right glute. Firm that right glute. That's gonna help stabilize the pelvis and the hips. Hands can come anywhere for your balance. Try to look in front of you. Big 360 breath. Release it down. You can shake the feet out a little bit.